Now the unit 6, gravitation. You are going to explain the Newton's law of gravitation firstly. First of all, we are going to explain the Newton's law of gravitation. Newton's law of gravitation. Newton's law of gravitation. It is very important law, not only for 11th class but 12th class as well. Two particles. First particles of mass m1 situated at a point at r distance, another particle, you can say that second particle having the mass m2 is situated at the b point. First particle of mass m1 is situated at the a point, second particle of mass m2 is situated at the B point. Distance between the two particles is r. The first law, first of all. Now, two particles attract each other in this universe. There is nothing but attraction everywhere. According to Newton, two particles attract each other. Second, force of attraction, capital F. Force of attraction, capital F, between the two particles is directly proportional the product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between these. That is, MF is directly proportional the product of their masses. Second, and F is inversely proportional R square. Combining both equations, F is directly proportional M1, M2 and inversely proportional R square, or F capital G M1, M2 upon R square. F is equal to G M1 M2 upon R square, where capital G is a constant quantity which is called gravitational constant, or we can say that universal constant or universal gravitational constant. Therefore, this law is called universal law of gravitation as well. Newton's law of gravitation is also known as the universal law of gravitation. Now, G is the gravitational constant which is called universal constant or universal gravitational constant. Now, the definition of the capital G. If M1 equals 1 kg, M2 equals 1 kg. Now the M1 is 1 kg, M2 is, now we can written here, if M1 equals 1 kg, M2 equals 1 kg, and distance between them R is 1 meter from equation 4. F equals capital Z. Now the definition of the gravitational constant. Gravitational constant is the force of attraction between the two particles of unit masses separated by the unit distance. Now the separated by the unit distance 1 meter and having the unit mass capital G may be defined as the force of attraction between the two bodies having the unit masses separated by now the unit mass here. Now again, properties or characteristics. Characteristics or properties. Properties or characteristics from equation 4. From equation 4, capital G equals F into R square divided by M1 M2, equation 6. First, now capital G is a scalar. Second, CGS unit of capital G. CGS unit of capital G, F dyne, R square, centimeter square, upon M1, M2, gram into gram, equals dyne centimeter square per gram square. That is the CGS unit of capital G. Third, SI unit of capital G. SI unit, F Newton, R square, meter square upon kg into kg. Newton meter square per kg square. Fourth, value of capital G, 6.67 into 10 to the power minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square. Fifth, it remains constant. G, 6.67 into 10 to the power minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square, remains constant for all the planets. G, 6.67 into 10 to the power minus Newton meter square per kg square. It is now constant for all the matter. Therefore, it is called universal constant. Now, 5 properties is it independent of? G is independent. G is independent of the nature. G is the independent of the nature. Means it does not depend on the nature. Now the rainy seasons, interseason, summer season does not matter. Capital G is always constant. Sixth, capital G is independent. Capital G is independent of size of the bodies. Independent of the size of the body. Whether it is a smaller size or greater size does not matter. It does not depend on the size of the body. Size of the sun, size of the moon, size of the earth does not matter. Capital G is always constant because it doesn't depend on the size of the body. 7. Capital G is independent of the medium. Capital G is independent of the medium. If the two body is placed, whether it's air, in water, or milk, or alcohol, or any medium, does not matter. Capital D does not depend on the nature of the medium. It is independent of the medium. That's why now the 8 properties number 8. G is independent of the medium. Now again, revise the statement, revise the properties. The value of G 6.6710 to the power minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square. G is independent of the nature. G is in the capital G, not a small g. Capital G is independent of the size of the bodies. 8 point, properties number 8. Now the G is, no, sorry, not 8, but the 7 property is the G is independent of the medium. It does not depend on the medium. When the two bodies are placed in air or in water or in milk or in alcohol or any medium, capital G is always constant. Is always constant here. Now the point number 8. Now it is, for example, you have to sketch the figure here. Property number 8. Two bodies. Here now the two bodies, center, A and B. Perhaps it is 8 point. First body and B is the second body. Mass of the first body is M1. Mass of the second body is M2. Now, there is a attraction between the two bodies here. A small r. First, force of action. Here is the force of action. F21 vector is the force of action. Force of action means force on B. Force on B due to A. That is the force of action. Now the first body. Now the force exerted on the second body like this. F21. Force on second body due to first body. Force on second body 2 due to first body is called force of action. Force on B due to A. And force on first body, force of first body due to second body. Force on first body due to second body, it is called first F12 vector. That is the force of reaction. That is the force of reaction. F12, force of reaction means force on A due to B. Now, first of all, it is clear from the figure that now the first of all, the force of action is the force on the second body due to the first body. That is the F21 vector. F21 vector means force on second body. Force here. Now it is clear from the figure that the force on second F21 vector is the force on second body means force on B body due to A. That is the called force of action. Now here second, force of reaction. Now the force on first body means force on A due to B. Both gravitational forces are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. opposite in direction. Automatically, now they obey the Newton's law of the motion here. It is clear from the figure that F12 vector and F21 vector are equal and opposite to x bar. That we can say that the properties number 8. Now the gravitational forces form action-reaction pair. What is the meaning of action-reaction pair? Now the gravitational force, it is clear from the figure that now the both forces are equal in magnitude, but in opposite in direction. Automatically now they follow, they obey, they support the Newton's law of motion here. Like this. First of all, force of action, force of reaction, F1 2 vector equals F2 1 vector. Now the F1 2 vector is the force of reaction. Now the F1 2 vector is the force of reaction, means now the force one first body means force of a body. Now here is due to the second body, that is the force of reaction. Now here the F21 means now the force on second body means force on B body due to A body, that is the force of action. Both are equal and opposite to each other. Therefore, automatically we can say that now they obey the Newton's law, Newton's third law of motion here. Both are equal and opposite either. We can say that now the gravitational forces form action and reaction pair. This is called action-reaction pair. Action-reaction pair. They obey the Newton's third law of motion here. Now the ninth point is gravitational forces are central forces. Now the ninth properties, characteristics of the Newton's law of gravitation is, now the gravitational forces are the central forces. What is the meaning of central forces? Central forces, now it is clear from the figure that central forces is the forces, they act along the line joining the two center here, O1 and O2. Now the light, now the on acts along the line. Now the central forces is the forces acts, they act, force of reaction or force of action or force of reaction act along the line joining the centers of the two bodies. Here now it is clear from the magnetic forces. Two magnet, North Pole, or North Pole, South Pole. That here is the magnetic force is also the central force, because the magnetic forces acts along the line joining the North Pole and the South Pole. We can now, this is the force of attraction, but here the force of reaction, North Pole and North Pole are like this. This repulsive force is also the central force. Here now the only you are going to explain the central force. Gravitational forces are the central force. Why the gravitational forces are the central force? Why the gravitational forces are the central forces? Because they act along the line joining the center of two bodies. Here now the 10th point, gravitational force is conservative. Magnetic force is conservative. Electric force is also conservative. And all these forces are central forces. But here, now in the 12th class, we can explain now the electric force, electrostatic force, or magnetic force. But here is now the the gravitational force are being discussed here. Only this gravitational force or forces are being discussed here. Now the conservative force, gravitational force is conservative force. What is the meaning of conservative force? The force due to which the work done by the conservative force depends on the initial and the final positions. does not depend the distance covered. Only the conservative force. Now the 11th point. Now here the 11th point. What is the here the 11th point is now the 11th point is dimension. Dimension of capital G is the dimension of F, dimension of R square, dimension of M1 and dimension of M2. Now we can easily now explain the dimension. You can derive the dimension here that is here. Now the dimension of capital G. Dimension of capital G is the dimension of capital F. And dimension of capital F means MLT minus 2. R square, L square. Dimension of mass, capital M. Dimensional rotation of the mass is capital M. Dimensional rotations of the distance is capital L. Now the dimensional formula or the dimension of the force is MLT minus 2. Dimension R square means L square. M1, M and M. M is cancelled plus 1. M minus 1, L3, T minus 2. Now dimensional formula of the capital G, it is very important for JEE Mains and the NEET examinations. 12th point. First body and again second body. A, B, first, M1, second body, mass M2, distance between the two bodies or the two particles is R. Here, now it is clear from the gravitational force between the two particles. Gravitational force between the two particles is unaffected due to the presence of third particle. Now, therefore, there is a mutual interaction between the two particles. Now, the gravitational force between the two particles is unaffected due to the presence of third particle. Now, third particle, there's no importance of the third particle. It is now the mutual interactions between the two particles only. Here now the mutual interaction between the two particles. Now the force, this is the gravitational force between the two particles is unaffected. There is no effect on the gravitational force due to the presence of the third particle, third body, third ball. Now therefore there is a mutual interaction between the two particles only. Now I can discuss. Now tomorrow we can discuss tomorrow the second topic, acceleration due to gravity. Jai Hind.